This story began 2 years ago. Back then, I came across this project by Timur Dautov online. It's a modern take on the design of the UAZ from the future. At this point, the project is almost finished and we're releasing episodes as they're edited. In the previous episodes, we bought a donor vehicle, started bringing it back to life, realized we were missing some parts, then bought another donor, completely rebuilt the suspension, differentials, brakes, and made a rear steering axle. It's a pretty amusing thing, see for yourself. And there's still a lot of interesting stuff ahead. Initially we have this kind of render. Timur, the creator of the project, kindly provided us with a 3D model, and this is what it looks like. Today's task is to make the body panels, specifically the front fenders and the front panel where the headlights are mounted. We'll get back to that a bit later, but first we're breaking down the 3D model, combining the elements and extracting the fender as a whole. This is exactly the part we need to end up with. The next step is to divide this element into parts again, but this time using a different approach, since it's impossible to manufacture it as a single solid piece. A little patience, and everything will become clear visually. So after we've split the fender into 3 components, we need to figure out what blanks are required for milling. To do this, we modeled our spindle and milling cutter. We bring it up to one of the fender elements and see where the spindle comes into contact with the blank. Based on this information, we adjust the positioning. Once we've made absolutely sure that the cutter can safely machine our parts, we then move on to the next crucial stage. Now we need to determine how much and what kind of material we need to prepare and glue together into a specific sandwich. This is done as follows. In the software, we set the thickness of the future sheet of material and stretch it to the required size. We record this size, and so, layer by layer, until our entire part is enclosed in a rectangle made of such sheets as you can see on the screen. Now, these virtual colored rectangles need to be materialized from brown MDF. The sheet thickness was initially set in the software, but we cut the pieces to the required size manually using a saw. We mark them, fasten them, and saw. And we repeat this process many times. After we've meticulously cut all the absolutely necessary pieces, we then need to firmly glue them together to obtain one solid monolithic piece. First, we lightly moisten the sheet with a mixture of water and glue, then carefully apply the glue itself and firmly clamp the sheets together, ensuring a secure bond. Of course, we'll remove the screws a bit later after the glue has set. And this way, we build it up layer by layer. And finally, after 2 days, we get to the most interesting part. Shaping the mold. First, we use a large coarse milling cutter to remove the bulk of the material. After half a day of machining, we end up with a result that somewhat resembles rice fields. The next stage takes another half a day, using a smaller, more delicate milling cutter to refine the shape. But as you remember, our wing consists of several elements that need to come together into a single seamless part. But even here, it's not that simple. After milling, we have excess material along all the edges, and it takes more than a day to precisely fit the pieces together like a puzzle. First, we use a bandsaw to cut off all the excess. Then we spent a long time carefully fitting and assembling the pieces, as you can see on the screen. After a week, a super precise and sturdy mold appears in the studio, and all that's left is to lay in the fiberglass mat and soak it with resin. But before that, we prime it, putty it, and perfect the surface. As a result, we ended up with these molds. Given their high precision and quality, the rest was easy, and in 2 days we'll take out from these molds the finished body panels. But let's take it step by step. First, we thoroughly degreased the surface. The next step was to create something like a flange all around the perimeter and tape it up. These are the spots where the part will end. Next, we apply a release agent. This is a very important step, and if you cut corners here, the part might get stuck in the mold forever. So let's hope Sanya didn't slack off, and we start mixing the polyester resin. After we've thoroughly mixed component A with component B, we add finely chopped fiberglass mat to this cocktail. We mix it all together and get this kind of mixture, which we apply evenly in a nice thick layer. This is done to form the future, robust stiffening grips. You don't necessarily need such a thick layer around the entire perimeter. A standard fiberglass mat will be quite enough there. But along the edges, you absolutely need to apply a thicker layer to get the correct and proper part, which is exactly what Sanya is diligently doing. The next step is to apply the mixture over the entire surface of the future wing. We cut a suitable piece of fiberglass mat and shape it as needed. At first, this isn't a very pliable material, but once the fiberglass mat is saturated with resin, it molds perfectly and takes on any, even the most complex shape. After 2 days, when the resin has completely dried, the most crucial moment arrives. We remove the part from the mold. As you can see, it popped out without problems. Now all that's left is to remove the tape and trim the excess. So the long-awaited first body panels are finally in our hands. But in order to install the new fenders, we need to get rid of the old ones. A couple of quick passes with the angle grinder, and it's done.
We did a lot, but filmed very little, because the work is so chaotic that yesterday Anya and I just quickly cut off all these extra fenders here with the grinders. The guys made us a mold, rolled out the trial fender panels, and tried them on. And we already realized that we can easily position our body on the chassis. Basically, our frame on the chassis, we clean the chassis, we'll paint it later because there's still a lot that needs to be welded to it, so we decided to postpone the painting process. It's dry in the workshop, it won't rust, nothing will happen to it. If it does rust, we'll clean it again. So now I can already start positioning the frame. For this, I set the body on a stand from below, leveled it according to the torsion suspension mounts at the suspension mounting points, so that basically the position of the body wouldn't be affected by tire pressure or any other factors, only by the metal of the body itself. This panel here turned out to be really crooked. I had to lift it up a little from that side. Yeah, and the whole car is twisted in some places, lifted in others, something's bent up. well, either it suffered over time or it was assembled like that at the factory. I don't know, we'll have to figure out how to deal with this now, come up with something. So that's it, we're setting the body in its final position, aligning all the main reference points.
The center of the frame with the center of the body. All the levels. We align everything and then weld our frame in place except for the final positioning of the fenders and figuring out the mounts. We weld our new frame to the old chassis, while simultaneously refining and developing new elements, like the rear arches. And a bunch of other little things along the way. In order for us to continue working on the frame, at this stage it's necessary to precisely position the front fenders. The thing is, they consist of two parts, and the fender smoothly transitions into the front door. That's the main sticking point. In order to come up with the mechanism and shape of the doors, we need to set the fenders in place, which is what you see on the screen.
So we carefully tried fitting the fenders onto the frame, and in our diligent attempt to preserve the precise shape and optimal height of the arch, we meticulously cut off all the excess material here, but it unfortunately turned out we went significantly overboard and cut off far too much. And overall, everything fits terribly like this. The entire front end ends up being positioned too low and too far forward, which significantly ruins the overall proportions with the windshield and consequently takes away valuable and precious space under the hood. So we are abandoning this option and going with a simpler one. We stick with the original plan, make the fender from the mold, don't cut it too much, and put it in place. And this fender, at first it fit here pretty well. There were some issues with the wheel arch right here and with the length of the fender right here, because we slightly lengthened the body to make it closer to the render. So basically we should just keep it simple. We did work, swapped in the factory part. Well, the fender from the mold wasn't fully finished, but now it's gotten a lot better. It needs a lot less work to refine, so this fender will stay as the donor. We're gonna cut a piece of the arch from it, and on this side we'll fit the new fender. Here's an example of what I was talking about. This fender is straight out of the mold. Unfinished, untrimmed, as is. According to the render, based on 3D, everything is perfect. As a result, it fits better here against the cowl panel. The windshield line preserved, the proportions by the windshield maintained, and the fender sits higher, more space under the hood. And the only place left to finish or modify it is right here. Move the wheel arch back a couple of centimeters and extend it here just a little bit, which looks much easier than overlapping the cowl panel from the other side.
As you can see, a brand new complete fender has appeared in the frame. That's the beauty of this technology. In other words, after we've made the reliable, high-quality mold, producing each subsequent panel takes just 2 days, and you can make as many copies as you want. Of course, over time the mold wears out, and ideally for mass production they need to be replaced periodically. But in our case, this thing is practically eternal, and at any time we can make ourselves another one, a new fender. After half a day, the guys fitted the two fenders and joined them together, with this kind of plywood overlay which has the exact shape of the future front end.
We roughly put the fenders in place more or less how they're supposed to sit, just aligning the surfaces. Everything fit here quite well, but at every new stage of the work we run into some new problems. Obviously we have the spars sticking out from below, and there's a more serious problem. It's that in the render, our hood is depicted as an absolutely flat sheet. An absolutely flat sheet with no bulges, nothing. Absolutely flat, no bulges, nothing at all. But in reality, it turns out that there's a curve to the hood here, so we'll have to do something about that no matter what. The way I see it, we'll put 2 points, connect them with a pipe, and cut off all the excess. It sounds simple, but as for how to actually do it, I don't know yet.
Let me remind you, the concept skull shape looks like this. In the original version of the old UAZ, it's rounded, Once again, the angle grinder and the profile pipe come to our rescue. A quarter of the cowl is done, and we can start summing things up.
I guess it's time to explain what's actually going on here, because I've done a lot but filmed very little. I used to live. We had this kind of shape before. You can see the remains here, and it was this rounded, cute hump in the center. But in the render, it's clear that the lines are straight, so we decided to change the cowl. And this, in turn, ended up being an advantage for us in the future. It allowed us to securely attach the base of the front fenders to the main frame. Here you can clearly see our previous cowl shape. And this is our brand new redesigned shape. It will come in quite flat here and then elegantly close up. There are also a significant number of important changes at the rear part of the vehicle. First, we now have rear doors, and second, they actually work. The upper one opens and the lower one opens as well. At the same time, here I already used automotive hinges. These are hood hinges, if I'm not mistaken, from an Audi 100 possibly. And this one's from some Renault. We selected them based on the movement kinematics. For now, they're just tacked on with a couple of welds, and all of this will be refined a lot in the future and look much better. This is just a test fit to see if they'll even work. Because as it turned out, the task isn't that simple, and I didn't get it right the first time. The kinematics are generally satisfactory, and they're also very sturdy, so we settled on these with the lower cover. I also installed hinges from a Renault, can't remember exactly. I think the Renault ones work well in terms of kinematics. It creates this step, like a little bench, and opens in a cool way. They're also just tacked on for now. In the future, I'll tidy all this up, make proper mounts for them, so everything can be removed, put back on, adjusted, and so on.
Next, we methodically move from the trunk door to the side doors, the drivers and passengers. The first thing is to figure out the door opening. Once we've settled on the shape and size of the door opening, the rest is easy. We weld exactly the same frame, but this time inside the opening. Now we know exactly what the precise dimensions and limitations our door has, which means we can start working on the hinges. We drill, cut, file and meticulously tidy up the mounting points. After half a day we do the first test fit, then adjust and install them properly. As a result, we ended up with a single solid door frame. This way it's much easier to make. In the end, you just need to cut at the joints and voila!
Our next major change is the doors. First of all is the fact that we have them, and second, that they already work and open. We decided to make suicide doors. That's what they've been called for ages because they're considered unsafe, and people have long since stopped using such doors on our cars. But we specifically decided to make them in this shape because making them open in the classic way would have been very difficult due to the shape of the fender. It would have forced us to invent some kind of mega complex hinges. This protrusion here would have prevented the door from opening properly and adequately. So we took the simple route and made suicide doors. First of all, it's cool. Secondly, it's convenient. It will be easy to get into the car in the future, I think. They open fully. When making them, I use the simplest hidden hinges, probably furniture or door hinges. We use the same ones on the Bucanca. They have proven themselves to be quite good. They have a wide range of adjustments. Yes, maybe it's not cool to use non-automotive components in a car, but in my opinion, the solution is quite good. It holds up, nothing is loose anywhere, and it allows you to open, close, and adjust. So I don't see any problems with using these particular hinges.
After we successfully finalized the precise shape of the door and accordingly the archway, it became abundantly clear that the old arch simply didn't fit into our current project at all. So we mercilessly removed it and, using the very same profile pipe, proceeded to build a completely new one.
So guys, this is what the final appearance of this arch looks like. Everything will be covered up. I made sure everything was level with the interior here, so it looks neat both outside and inside. Now, about the rear cover. Both the lower and upper covers are finished. Can you see it? Just like that. Everything is in place, all the hinges, everything works. And the lower cover works too. It will lock as well.
As you remember, under the hood, we also tried to leave some of the sheet metal, thinking it would make future work easier. But as practice shows, such pieces only make the job more complicated. So here too we ruthlessly removed them and come up with new reliable mounts for the fenders. And here it became clear that everything needs to be carefully thought out and designed. Without the front panel, where the headlights are located, it will be very difficult. So once again, we open the file with the model, extract the necessary panel from there, and start up the machine. The technology here is exactly the same. And accordingly, the process is just like when we made the front fenders, which we recently went through in detail. So we won't take up your time and we'll show this process in a super fast forward format. And so, after a few days, the file from the computer has turned into a super precise, high quality part that just needs to be finished and test fitted in place.
I put the front end on. For now, I just put it on one tube, this one here, tacked in place. And now the task is to arrange everything in the engine bay. We'll make mounting points for all the components, and then we'll seal it all up. Basically, the simpler we make it here, the better. So I've roughly marked here where we'll most likely need to cut. Of course, this is just a rough outline, but at least it gives us an idea. And this is how it looks for us. The engine is hanging, so basically, just like in the render, there will be a guard here. And in my opinion, it should also be reinforced.
In the end, there were no simple solutions here, and it was decided to make the entire structure out of round tubing. This isn't the easiest solution, since fitting such a frame takes a lot of time. And now, after 2 days, the main idea is starting to become clear.
I couldn't bend the whole contour on the pipe bender. I thought I could at least do it in halves, but I couldn't even manage that. So I assembled it from pieces and cleaned it up. And it actually looks pretty decent. So now I'm gonna weld this metal in place. I've already assembled the frame for the front part itself, even tacked it together with Sasha and set it in place. This is how it looks. And next the task is to sort things out and tidy it up. Here, everything needs to be organized so that the fenders have something to attach to, and there's a place to mount the engine support. So now I'm gonna carefully cut off these excess parts of the frame rails, primarily because they're sticking out, they've been completely closed off, and it simply won't look the way we truly want. Then I'll meticulously tie the entire front end together, securely connect it to the frame rails, and then start making the lower cover, which will also effectively serve as protection.
In the original concept by the author, we see this kind of element. But in our case, this isn't just for designated necessity, since the engine sticks out far beyond the body and of course ruins the appearance. A cover like this should help improve the look. First of all, we cut off the excess, specifically the protruding frame rails. Then, using a sheet, some cardboard and ingenuity, we made these precise templates, transferred them onto metal and fabricated patches that just need to be welded into the rightful place. After that, there were still many hours of fitting, welding, finishing, and of course, reworking.
I started assembling this cover based on the render. In the render, it's positioned at the right angle. But as always, everything looks simple in the picture. In reality, it turned out to be not so simple. First of all, we decided not to install it at the right angle, but to bend it slightly inwards so there wouldn't be such a big bulge hanging down. I don't know what that's called. Well, so it wouldn't stick out too much from below, since the engine is hanging there, or sticks out quite a bit. Just cut off the outer points, bend them inward, weld up the gap, it's not a problem, we can change that quickly. The second issue is that since everything here will be covered up, how are we going to access this mounting point? I didn't account for that either. At first, I don't know. Maybe it'll turn out that I don't have to do anything and can avoid making changes, but I'll only see that a bit later. So right now I'm bending this inward, or rather. First I bend this part, check what the angle is here. I bend this one the same way, so everything is symmetrical. And then I'll weld this front wall here. The entire bottom will definitely be covered with metal. And as for the side walls, I'm not sure yet, maybe metal as well, just possibly a thinner sheet.
In the end, this thing will serve both a decorative and a protective function. After all, this is an off-roader, and we plan to give it a proper test. And having the engine hit obstacles is not a great idea.
At the factory, the hood opened this way, but it doesn't seem very convenient for maintenance, and honestly, it just feels odd. Another thing is, we're gonna have a radiator here, and there's nowhere to put the hinges. So I went to the nearest scrapyard and bought 2 hinges that, in my opinion, should more or less fit our needs. But again, we run into this problem both with Volga and here. If you just install the hinge like this, when you open the trunk, it hits against something. So we had to recess the hinge right into the edge of the hood, basically. And now it's installed like this, and that's it now. Everything opens up and nothing gets in the way. Of course, this meant we had to do a bit more work. And here too, we'll have to tidy things up somehow later. And here as well, we'll need to make everything look nicer, make it more presentable.
Here, everything turned out to be extremely simple, since the shape of the future hood is just a simple rectangle. And Kolya had been battling with the hinges for the past few weeks, so by the time it came to the hood, he had plenty of experience. So after just one day, we have another finished part. In the end, we'll get something this beautiful, so just a little more patience. Thank you for watching and wishing you all the best from Topor.